one of the main things that I loved about people sharing their experiences of reading this book is that we don't culturally want to talk about difficult things. We like things to be shiny, especially in American culture, very shiny, very fast, very pretty. That's not what the meat and bones of life is about. And it leads to a very isolating, sheltered kind of feeling when we go through challenges. And I felt so desperate to connect with people. And I could sense that even close friends just didn't know how to handle it. So oftentimes people just don't say anything. That just furthers the isolation, and it makes one feel as though their feelings aren't legitimized, or they should be better. I should be over this by now. And, we just have to go through things as a step by step, really.
Hi, it's Kanika, and I'm back with another season of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast, where I interview parenting experts, global thought leaders, best-selling authors, and trailblazing entrepreneurs on their incredible life stories, their mom sense and dad sense experiences, and the values and legacy they're passing on to their children.
Hi, I'm Gabby Bernstein, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
It's me, Bobby Brown, on Total Mom Sense. Can't wait to share my story.
Hi, I'm Dr. Elisa, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
These episodes will inspire you to make every single day count. Episodes release every Thursday. Join my tribe by logging on to thatstotalmomsense.com, where you'll receive my free Parenting in a Pandemic guidebook, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, so you never miss an episode. Today's show isn't just whatever, it's kind of a big deal. And if you don't feel like listening, as if. Okay, it's going to be bewildering, leaving you bewitched. I'll stop with the innuendos now, but I am fully fanning out today because I have Elisa Donovan with me on That's Total Mom Sense. For over 20 years, Elisa Donovan has been a major part of pop culture. She began her film career when she played the role of Amber in the iconic comedy Clueless. She later starred in the TV series Beverly Hills 90210, playing bad girl Ginger LaMonica. She then went on to reprise her role of Amber for 3 seasons on the TV series of Clueless, during which time she shot the Paramount SNL Films comedy A Night at the Roxbury. Then for 3 seasons, Elisa played Morgan Cavanaugh on the monster hit series Sabrina The Teenage Witch. Elisa was also the star and co-producer of the NBC comedy web series In Gale We Trust, created and written by Brent Forrester of The Office, which was an unprecedented success for the network, garnering over 35 million views. Elisa was voted reader favorite as a celebrity mom blogger for People.com and was hand-selected by Sheryl Sandberg to be the voice for her #1 bestsellers, Lean In and Option B, the audiobook. Elisa's first book, Wake Me When You Leave, released in the wake of the pandemic in 2020, which is her personal memoir where she opens up about loss and grief and how she made it through. The film is currently in development with Richard J. Bosner producing, and this marks Elisa's screenwriting and directorial debuts. In addition to her entertainment career, Elisa supports women struggling with eating disorders and is a proponent of spreading awareness and recovery. She has had pieces published in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and her story has been featured in the book Feeding the Fame and documented for Teen People. Elisa has spoken about recovery on many TV shows, including 2020, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, and Dr. Drew's Headline News. Originally from Northport, Long Island, Elisa grew up studying acting, writing, and photography. She was also a competitive equestrian. She graduated from Eugene Lang College at the New School University in New York, where she studied dramatic literature, acting, and writing. She now lives in San Francisco with her husband and daughter. Elisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a bit about your childhood.
So I grew up on Long Island, which is just outside of New York City in New York. And I had a very traditional, conventional family, older brother and older sister. Both of my parents were together. My dad was an executive for AT&T. So he worked a lot in the city, wasn't home that much. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I grew up as really the only creative or outwardly creative person in my family. So I was kind of the outlier, always needing to express myself and always wanting to put on plays and write stories. And I think both my brother and sister had some of those tendencies. My brother and I would put a lot of the plays on together, but I really was the only one who it was kind of their life force. That was I knew from a very young age that was something that really resonated with me and that I was meant to be doing.
And, would your parents take you on auditions? Were they really supportive of your journey through acting?
My dad thought it was just a hobby growing up. Certainly, my mom was always very supportive. And I didn't start actually auditioning professionally until I was 17. I think I'm 10th or 11th grade. So around 17. And so my mom would take the train into the city with me and go on auditions. And at that point, it was really for commercials and things like that. And so she was very, very supportive. And my dad was as well, until he at a certain point thought, well, you need to go to college. And I always wanted to go to college, and I did. But right out of high school, I wanted to be an actress. And that meant not taking a detour of I was going to go to NYU to Tisch school, and you are not allowed to audition for the first 2 years. And at the time, that felt to me like a step backwards. And so I wanted to take a year off and go to an acting studio full time, and then went to the New School for Social Research, which didn't have any, the New School University didn't have any criteria that you could not be working outside of school. So yeah, they were supportive, but again, my dad didn't really understand he was very conventional and didn't really understand the path I was on and how vehemently it was in the fabric of my being. I wasn't meant to be a lawyer, although my mom always still tells me that I would have been a very good lawyer because I would argue my case from the time I was 5 years old.
That's great. Oh, I love it. And I mean, you're such a natural on screen. It's a joy to watch you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And I feel like, I'm 39. I still have such great memories of Clueless. It was just this phenomenon. Tell us a little bit about what it was like on set with Alicia and Stacey and Donald and Paul Rudd. Like, what was it like?
We were all very young, and I think everybody just wanted to do the best job that we could do. But it was exciting because it did feel really magical. It felt, and it's hard for me to tell whether or not that was because it was the first big film I had ever done, or it's kind of a whole host of things that were happening. But I think that kind of magic, you can feel it. It just that everything was right. Everyone was very well cast. The script was phenomenal. Everything from wardrobe to set deck to just everything was really perfection. And I think that's what always makes a great project, is when all of the pieces come together and everybody is operating at their highest level. And then you get this product that just is truly a creative community project where everyone's piece of the puzzle matters.
And moving on to another cult classic, which was Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And, dating back, I still remember watching it on TGIF. Like, that was ritual for us. It was pizza, TGIF, and Sabrina. What were like those memories like for you?
That set was really like a family. And I think that's because Melissa is from a big family, and her mom was the executive producer, and they welcomed everyone and had really fun holiday parties and did things that really brought everyone together. I just love Melissa. She's just a sweetheart. She's such a hard worker. She's really smart and she's super down to earth. And all of those things are incredibly rare to find in a person who truly has grown up in front of the camera like she has. She has been in the business since she was very, very young.
Now, when it rains, it pours. And this is exactly how you started your book, Wake Me When You Leave. And it begins with this thunderstorm. Was that intentional to be a metaphor?
So that's so interesting you ask that, because that chapter, which is now, I guess, the prologue, we made it, that moved around in all different places in the book. I had such a hard time deciding where to put it. And I knew that it was super important because it really set the tone for that father-daughter relationship and how much I looked up to him and how he was such a source of support. And I kept moving it. And then, and my editor said to me, we're going to find out, we're going to figure out where this goes. Like it's wonderful and it's staying. We haven't quite figured it out yet. And then really in the last revision, I think it just needs to go at the beginning, but I didn't want to start the book like chapter 1, because I felt as though the tone of it was really kind of rhythmic and slower and more dreamlike. And I wanted the book to start more quickly, kind of with a faster energy. So then we said, let's put it at the very beginning. The short answer is no, I didn't necessarily think that at the time, but I do feel as though that is the right place now because it works in so many ways that it is like starting the storm.
Yeah, it really set the stage. And the storm that ensued was, you had found out, the earth-shattering news that your father had cancer. Mm-hmm. Your agent called you to tell you very nonchalantly that Sabrina was canceled and you were without a job, and your then boyfriend broke up with you at the time. So It's just, all of it could have felt like this crashing down, of like circumstances on you.
It did.
Yeah. How did you muster up the courage and resilience to get over each challenge?
When these things happen, we feel so isolated, and then it feels insurmountable. And, there was a lot of time where I just felt as though I was floating in this half life where I didn't know where I was going and what I was doing. And I kind of wanted, you just want someone to tell you what to do or someone to swoop down and fix it. There's no magic answer. It's actually really just going through the grief and acknowledging what's happening, and I think one of the main things that I've loved about people sharing their experiences of reading this book is that we don't culturally want to talk about difficult things. We like things to be shiny, especially in American culture, very shiny, very fast, very pretty. That's not what the meat and bones of life is about. And it leads to a very isolating, sheltered kind of feeling when we go through challenges. And I felt so desperate to connect with people. And I could sense that even close friends just didn't know how to handle it. So oftentimes people just don't say anything. That just furthers the isolation, and it makes one feel as though their feelings aren't legitimized or they should be better. I should be over this by now. And, we just have to go through things as a step by step, really.
I feel like there's nothing that can prepare you for the loss of a parent. How did you find solace when your dad passed away?
He started to come to me in these dreams, and that was incredibly healing. But that was kind of further down the line. And I think how I started to find some peace is knowing that his spirit is still alive, that when someone dies, they never really leave us. And that is a pretty profound thing to actually metabolize. And so while it doesn't mean that he's here and that I can call him up or, ask his advice or tell him, but at the same time, I can still talk to him and we get to share the experience of what our loved ones have taught us, what they've given us. I get to see in my daughter, that's a whole other story. I am certain that my daughter talks to my dad and sees my dad. I know they are buddies. And
Wow.
I asked her once, kids are just so much closer to that spiritual nature of things. They don't have the filter of life telling us these things aren't real or they don't matter. And so she did so many things when she was very, very small that were proof to me that she was, that my dad was connected to her. And that's kind of how peace comes in pieces, I think. It doesn't come all at one time. And again, we want, I think, these simple solutions or, okay, do this and you're going to be fine in 6 months,
That's right.
But there is no recipe like that for grief. And it really ebbs and flows and it's different for everyone. But I think if I had to say one thing, I would say to just allowing myself to be sad and allowing myself to appreciate the good and the bad, allowing myself to be angry about what I felt I didn't get from him, allowing myself to really feel the loss. It seems as though, if I let myself go down that hole, I'm just never going to come out. I'll just be sad for the rest of my life. That's not really the case. It's that we have to feel that in order to move through and move beyond.
Yes. Yes. You are extremely clairvoyant and really know how to tap into your intuitive energy, as does your daughter. Was this something that you've always possessed, or did it get stronger, when your dad visited you in his dreams?
I've always had an awareness of this kind of thing, but when I was younger, never being able to put words to it or have any kind of real foundation for acknowledging it or managing it. Absolutely. This experience was a spiritual experience for me. And that term is sometimes really annoying to hear. All of these things happening in the close succession that they did stripped away all of these things that I thought made up who I am. My exterior, my job, my boyfriend, the way my life looked, all of these things. And they were all stripped away. And I had to rebuild and really understand who I am. And part of that was realizing it isn't just this physical world that we exist in. And I think the sadness really opened myself up to receiving any kind of help that I could have. That's kind of, I think was a really big part of it, that I felt so open to receiving any kind of care. The more physical reality things that could help at the time didn't really. And so it certainly developed more with my dad passing, without a doubt, and these dreams. And then I started to really tap into doing more work with my dreams and in my creative life, incorporating dreams into my work. And I started to do a lot of research on Carl Jung's philosophies of dreams and that psychology. And I just started to incorporate that more into my life. And then the veils, if you will, between the two worlds really started to just fade away. And you see how there is this tremendous connection between there and here. And it's a beautiful thing. And it can be a little bit disarming, I guess, at first. I was going to say scary, but it was a little bit scary at first. And part of that was realizing, if he is communicating with me, he really is gone. He really has died. So there was some acceptance that I had to make of, if I'm getting these kinds of signs, this is really the final acceptance that he's not with us in this physical world anymore. So that was part of the grief process also, a kind of closure. But within that closure came this huge opening up of an even greater connection to him,
Wow.
and an even closer relationship, which is something that I never would have anticipated.
You also openly share your journey with anorexia. And when it got really bad, you were hospitalized. And this was around the time that you were filming Clueless. But just raising young kids in this day and age is really scary. I mean, just the social media, the scrutiny, the fact that everything is touched up and photoshopped and not real. And so they have even more of this like skewed lens of what beauty is, and it's awful. How do you hope to like support young kids, like our daughters, especially, how to navigate all this?
Yes. This is something that I can give actual specific ways that I handle things with her. Number one, I make a habit of never commenting or complimenting her appearance or her friends' appearances. In other words, you look so pretty today. I love your dress, or I love your shirt, and look at your pretty hair. I'd never say any of those things.
Yeah.
And then people might think, oh, that's so mean. No, I talk about other things about her. Wow, I love how interested you are in this movie. I love what do you love about this book? Oh my gosh, you worked so hard on this, and you played so well today. My daughter happens to be very athletic. She is thankfully not interested in, dresses and things but she is not interested in her appearance in that way. And that elates me.
Yes. Priorities.
I don't know for how long that will be, but she doesn't. And I ask her about how she's feeling, about what she thinks about things. I just keep it interior rather than exterior. And there are things she has said to me already in the last couple of years. She said, and she's 9, she turned 9 in May.
Mm-hmm.
She said, why is my belly so fat in the shower? She said this. And I realized in this moment, we had just eaten dinner and she just ate. And I said, well, you just ate. Your belly's not fat. It's full. You just ate. Oh, what? And I said, it would be strange if you ate and then your body you eat and you digest it. And then you'll notice in a couple of hours, it won't look that way. And I just try to be very logical and non-emotional about anything about the body, because as a person who had an eating disorder, it's terrifying when you hear your child say, why is my belly fat? But I realized she's not saying, I don't need to put something on it that she is not putting on it.
Right.
She wasn't going, I feel terrible, I'm fat, I need to not be. No, that's not what she was saying.
Yeah.
She was making an observation about her body rather than letting her come to her own conclusions. I just try to be very direct about these things. You can see already your kids being 3 and 4, and you'll just see it more and more and more, how they are literally just observing everything that you do. Yeah. And then they start to mirror things that you do. It's just as important that we don't judge ourselves and talk about ourselves in a negative way with regard to appearance or body or food or eating. It's the same thing with food. My daughter is not a great eater. She's kind of a grazer, she eats like 4 things total in life. Mm-hmm. We're trying to expand them, but I have to try not to judge what she's eating and just encourage her and say, the reason you want to eat these things, it makes your body strong. It's helpful that she's athletic, because I can say, if you want to become stronger, eating more vegetables and protein is a good idea,
Yeah.
But I try to keep it about nutrition, and there are no good foods or bad foods, or, sweets and those kinds of things are challenging to navigate because I don't like to give them too much credit or too much weight. So I allow her to have sweet. We don't do candy and things like that, but ice cream or whatever it might be. I try not to use those things as treats, like as a reward.
As rewards. Yeah.
Do something else as a reward. But sure, if she wants to have ice cream, it's fun. In the summer, it's hot, but we try to make it kind of situational and enjoyable, or about nutrition, and not with any kind of emotional association to it.
Now tell us about your husband and how he is as a partner and team player in raising your little one.
He is incredibly, incredibly supportive. He is very involved, as much as he can be, with our daughter. He works in finance and works East Coast market hours. And so he's up super early but then is finished early. So he gets to really be in her life in the afternoons and evenings. And we are very much 50-50 partners. My schedule is often more flexible, but then when it isn't, it is not flexible at all.
Right.
If
You're
I'm
on location,
if I'm away doing something, yes. And, kind of doing all this, the promotion for the book and writing the book, for that matter, during the pandemic, which was, my goodness.
I can't even imagine. I mean, you're homeschooling your little one.
Yes.
You're editing your book. And
it was bananas. It was completely bananas, I will say. But so that was extraordinarily challenging, but we really try to balance it out. He is very much a partner in that way, and will adjust his schedule whenever he can. And we both do that. And my daughter feels very much like she has two parents, who are both involved. And for a long time, she always thought, she didn't know that I was an actress, and she didn't know any of those things. And, the last few years I've been focusing more on the book and getting the film made and writing. So I haven't been doing as much actual acting where I have to leave town. So once she discovered, she had a friend in preschool come home from a trip once, and they saw, I think I did this series of movies with talking dogs, these family movies. And one of her friends saw one of them on the airplane and came in and said, "Scarlett's mom is a movie star," to the whole preschool. And all the kids were like, "What?" And my daughter said, "What? No, she's not. What are you talking about?" And then, then it opened up this conversation of it. That's what I do. But for a certain time, then after that, she just thought, "Oh, if you want to be in movies, you just don't, you just are, because she looked at me and I was home, and then, and taking her to school. And then I thought, oh, wait a second. She needs to understand that this is not," and she would keep asking me while the film has been in development, "Didn't you make that movie yet? Is it already, and I'll say, "No, Scarlett, it takes a while. You have to develop it. And then you have to get the financing, and then you have to get the people," writing of the book was the first time that she saw, oh, mommy works in a way where I can't just kind of hang out and be with her, And so that was a big adjustment for her also.
So is there a moment in time that you remember you trusted your mom sense?
She has anxiety, our daughter, and part of it, I actually think, comes from her connectedness to kind of what's going on a lot of levels. But she also had this accident at school, just a freak accident where she tripped and hit her head on this exterior pole that cracked her head open, needed stitches all the way to her skull. It was very, very dramatic, and it happened at pickup. They had to have an ambulance, and all of the girls, she goes to an all-girls school, K-8, and the entire school was there. It was extremely dramatic and very traumatic for her. And then after that, her anxiety really kind of went through the roof about everything, that she was afraid she's going to get sick and all of these things. So in terms of me knowing, there are times where she'll say, I know that she needs to talk about her feelings about what's happening. And there have been moments where my husband will say, "It's fine. She's fine. She's just, being overly dramatic," or "This is fine." And I'll look at her and I know the difference between, she's going to throw a fit because she doesn't want to do whatever it may be, and when she is actually really struggling. And that thing I am navigating all of the time. And so I will usually take her aside and just, again, ask her what she's feeling. And then if you ask them and they tell you, sometimes it's really scary. You know, she will say, I'm afraid that I'm going to get sick. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to school. And she has this spiral in her mind. And then I have to say, that's just your brain and it's really working overtime. And we are all going to get sick at some point again. And then we're going to get well. We can't fix it for them. You know, there's this fine line of, I believe, of comforting them and supporting them, but also allowing them to feel uncomfortable and know that not everything gets tied up in a bow and it doesn't get fixed. We can't fix it for them, even though we want to.
Let's not forget our quote of the day. Is there a quote that you live by?
The opening of the book, I love that Rumi quote. It says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. And I think that is a great thing to remember.
Yes. It's where healing and growth come from. It's now time for Mom Haul, when we share products we love. Mom Haul, fun segment where you can share any product or gadget or really anything that you are loving right now that you want the audience to know about. Oh, I just got these new hair vitamins that I'm really loving. Okay. Yeah. Tell us about it. It's called Ulu, ULU. Okay. Hair, skin, and nail. And I've taken things over the years. And for whatever reason, I think it's probably when it has too much of one thing, they'll make you break out or have like weird things that doesn't actually do what you need them to do. And I've only been taking them a couple of weeks and I have no negative reaction. And I feel like my hair is getting thicker and my skin is feeling better. So I'm into those. That's awesome. I mean, you look radiant. So yeah, I'm going to get some Ulu. Awesome. And where can my listeners find you? You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Red Donovan and on Facebook at Elisa Donovan. They all have the little blue check mark, so you can tell it's me. And I also have a website, elisa-donovan.com. Great. And your book. Yes. And you can get my book anywhere where you get books at Barnes & Noble, at bookstores, at Amazon. Goodreads has a great, list of links to where you can get them. And the audiobook is also available everywhere. Oh, that's so great. Elisa, you are a light. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And like I said in the beginning, we all are going to encounter some sort of grief or loss in our life at every point of our life. And the way that you have overcome it with such grace and acceptance and resilience is something that I look up to. And I know my listeners do too. So thank you. Thank you so much, Kanika. This has been really lovely. You're terrific. Thank you. How fun was today's interview? Elisa, you are a gem. Thanks so much for sharing your life story and allowing us to do a deep dive into your childhood, your career, your motherhood experience, and the life lessons you've learned along the way. A big, big hug to Icon PR and the entire team. Thank you, Heather, for making this chat happen. Tune in to other episodes of That's Total Mom Sense, and you can browse my YouTube channel where I post highlights from our interviews when you just type in That's Total Mom Sense in YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta, and you can watch my IG Live with Elisa, where we share some new tidbits and snippets that were super fun. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast, wherever you listen. Remember, always trust your mom sense and dad sense. Stay strong, super parents.
That's Total Mom Sense.